All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Superhero Spotlight series. I'm the host, Scott Arnwine, and today I'm joined by my good friend and the CEO of Payment Earth, Jeff Scanlon. Jeff, how are you?
Doing pretty good, Scott. How about yourself?
Doing great. And so Jeff, I understand that the Zoom is not off and that you are just looking extra live. I heard you're doing a show soon. Or you're doing some sort of competition.
Yeah, I got a 54-year-old guy bodybuilding show coming up in a couple weeks. So, and then another one in about 6.5 weeks. So, if we get a little fuzzy in the conversation, it's because I'm pretty much eating chicken only at this point. And there you have it.
Nice. I mean, hey, you would put me to shame, so I wouldn't put down the fact that it's 50 and older. That's pretty impressive. Um, but awesome. So for those who don't know you, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself and your career and how you came to start Payment Earth and what it is you guys do.
So I've been selling sort of, for lack of a better term, middle market foreign exchange since about 1989. I drove out here to California from Connecticut after college, and on the second job interview I went to was a little company called Roosh International, which a billion people in the FX industry got their start there, and it was a really great time. It's kind of funny. There's still like an alumni group and stuff on Facebook. The company's long been defunct, but a lot of us got our start there. They paid terrible, but gave us a really good education in foreign exchange. So it was a good time, and I ended up being there for about 8 or 9 years. And managed their Los Angeles office before going to a company called Commonwealth Foreign Exchange, where I spent 18 years. They merged with they were bought out by Money Corp, I guess about 4 years ago. Writing was on the wall, wasn't really the thing for me. And at that time, Currency Cloud was just getting rolling, and we made a couple initial contacts, my business partner and I, and decided to, jump into the foreign exchange thing and sell what we term as, our fixed markups and transparency. So we've been in business now for about 5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, you guys kind of got started in the United States around the same time we did, and you've been a longstanding customer of ours. So it's been cool to see you guys grow as we have as well. And you guys have been great partners. So you said that, you have a background in FX. Payment Earth is what would be considered an FX broker. So in the UK, where we kind of got started, we began by servicing these FX brokers where there's an obvious need, being in the UK and the dealing with the European economy and the different currencies. How is that different from the US economy, and how is the FX broker market play out in North America, and how is it different from what we would consider in our UK office?
We could have conversations that could go a couple different ways with this. Licensing in the United States is a very interesting, footprint, and I think it's one that Currency Cloud does a good job of sort of capitalizing on. And it's also a very complicated footprint because it's a state-by-state licensing situation, which doesn't make getting a foreign exchange firm off the ground all that much fun in the last 5 or 10 years. So there's that climate that probably differs, considerably to to the EU and the UK and what have you. And then as far as the customer side, and what drives the customer side, we have so many different client groups here. I specialize in a group of clients that are television production companies, so they shoot commercials and they shoot them overseas, and we pay for their commercials. Basically, they'll shoot a job in the UK or the Czech Republic or something like that. Then we've got your typical, everybody that does importing. You import British specialty food, and you're paying £50,000 for a container of biscuits that you're bringing in. So there's just a plethora of different types of corporations and companies that do FX, and we sit in kind of a sweet spot. Nowadays, if you're privy at all to any of this, you see Wise or TransferWise or whatever they're calling themselves these days.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, never heard of them. They tend to sort of be grounded from a consumer to consumer side, and we've always sort of sat in a niche market where we're not the guys who are going to sort of service a giant shopping cart business that's doing 50 million payments. Not that if there's a giant shopping cart business out there that wants to call us after this, we'll happily take the call.
We'll share the information.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. So, but what really our sweet spot is, we deal with sort of the small to mid-sized business, the importer that's going to, maybe do 3 payments a month and maybe do 200 payments a month. And our volumes tend to be, a little bit bigger than the consumer side, probably start somewhere in the 5 to 7K range and go up to, sometimes multi-million-dollar trades. But a lot of times that, sort of the 5-figure trade is sort of our bread and butter, and just as we call them, our base hits, And so that's kind of the market we service.
Okay, so like middle-sized companies, not necessarily like a billion-dollar corporation, not a mom and pop, somewhere in the middle.
Well, and it just makes me think too. You asked, what's the difference in the United States, and if at least we always say in the United States, business is built on small business. So
right,
your small and mid-sized business, there's plenty of it out there, and that's typically who we service.
Yeah, and I noticed you said about your point about how difficult it is to become licensed and to offer international payments and FX services, and you're right, that's something that we see amongst our own customers and ourselves. But it's always a struggle to attain that licensing because of the high regulatory overhead in this country. So you have the community banks, you have the fintechs like ourselves and TransferWise, and then to a lesser extent, you have the FX brokers like yourself that specialize in certain areas. So it's always interesting to see that. So do you see this as a growing demand within the industry for the customers that you're servicing? I know that you guys managed to grow, and I'm not sure if it's just the elbow grease that you put into it, or is this a trend that you're seeing across North America that because of globalization or other trends that are going on, that the need for conversions of currencies is something that's growing?
Yeah, I think it's always been that way. I think that, we're not exactly producers in the United States compared to other places, and there's always going to be imports of various, products, and food's an obvious, just an obvious one, and manufacturing and machinery and parts, and there's everything is made somewhere else, and I don't think that need is ever going to cease. Now we could get into some of the more transparency's obviously done some things like drive pricing and what have you lower, and made markets more difficult to be part of, and if that makes any sense. So I don't think the need for foreign exchange is going anywhere. I think, but I do think things are evolving, and business has certainly shifted from the days when at Roosh, where we used to bring people on for what was the spot price, and then the main modus operandi was to start bumping up their prices until your best customers were ultimately the ones that were bleeding the hardest, and those days are long over. I think companies like us, companies like TransferWise, have brought that transparency game more to the forefront, and it's here to stay.
Right. So yeah, so you bring up transparency. So I guess, how do you maintain your competitive advantage as we see the fintechs enter the space, and these other companies that are kind of changing the way money moves around the world, as you've just pointed out, and the industry itself just continues to grow. So how do you make sure that Payment Earth stands out, and that you guys are able to maintain and grow your customer base?
Well, I think TransferWise is a great example to use without calling out a giant basically that could step on us in a nanosecond. But they're a great example. Everybody has a sort of a cost of doing business, and there's a certain price you have to make in order to be. Guys. I literally got a new computer on Friday because mine melted down. So there's some technical issues still going on. But
that's fine. I was reading your lips.
So TransferWise is a great example, right? They're a giant on the consumer to consumer side. But when you really start looking at things, we're U.S. based, so we're always used to doing ACH, for instance. Like our business clients want to get paid by ACH. Is ACH antiquated? Sure, but it still suits the business corridor, if you will. And if you look on their website, so they give you a really, really great rate. I think it's 0.45, and then their ACH is an additional 0.3 or 0.35. So their actual price is 0.8, and it's not really that great for mid to small market, stuff. So where I'm going with that is that a great service, and for the consumer, is it a fantastic pricing? And yes, absolutely. But from a business perspective, we bake that ACH right into our model. Our typical spreads for the average, for a major currency is 0.5. I should also note, from a tech standpoint, you can go on our webpage, you can see exactly what our prices are per every currency that we offer, and that's with the ACH baked in. That's all in, basically. I guess where I'm going with it is that every single company, if you're going to be a company at some point, there's going to be a profit, and I think we've kind of drilled. I know some of these companies are like, oh, we want to get this to zero exchange rates, and the reality of it is, well, if you're selling exchange rates and now you're at zero exchange rate spread, do you have a viable business any longer? And I think we all know what the answer to that is.
Yeah. So I guess you're able to offer a more transparent rate than even like some of the top competitors, because they're not necessarily being as transparent as they're making themselves out to be.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's a price of doing this business, and I will say another thing too. One of the things that's a little bit shocking to me, and maybe it's just because I'm old. We let off the conversation saying how old I was, but one of the things that I think we do a really, really good job of is we marry this sort of the tech side. We have all the apps, we have the transparency, we've got the mobile site, all of that kind of stuff. But then we still actually have a customer service component. Like, you can actually reach us from 6 a.m. in the morning until late in the afternoon. And foreign exchange, to me, is still one of those things, at least to me, that there's some hand holding that needs to go on when you're in the business sector and you're selling forward contracts for somebody that's that wants to hedge their needs for 6 months to a year in the future, and they can't get anybody on the telephone, or they can't talk to somebody about what's coming up with the economy or something along those lines. That's to me, that's a piece that still needs to be included if you're going to service the business world. If you're sending $300 to your mom in the UK, probably not necessary. But if you're literally budgeting out the machinery you're going to bring in from Germany for the next year and a half, you probably want to speak to somebody that at least has read some economic data and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. So beyond the expertise that you bring from the experience, as you pointed out, or being old, as you called it, but you don't look a day over 53 to me. But besides the experience and the customer service that you offer, is there anything else that you guys do to ensure the trust in your sales process for when you're offering to process the FX and the payments for your customers? Because obviously, when you're moving money around the world, or you're holding currency for somebody, there is a large degree of trust that has to go into that. Is there anything that you guys do that makes you guys special in that way?
Well, we pair with Currency Cloud, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the answer you were looking for. No, I'm kidding.
That's the answer I was trying to get. Yes. No.
In a roundabout way, I mean, we partner with people that are trusted, either trusted banks, trusted liquidity providers. We have compliance that we take very seriously, and we have to, because places like you take it very seriously, one level up, if you will. So we have a compliance department that looks through everything. We dot our I's, we cross our T's. Our clients are I don't want to say over scrutinized, but we make sure they are who they say they are, so that we don't have issues with things like that going forward. In the United States, the compliance is just an enormous part of this business, and if you don't sort of embrace it, it's going to be it's going to be very difficult to grow.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you guys are always one of the best companies that we deal with as far as compliance wise. You guys are always one step ahead of us on any queries that we have or anything. So it's been great working with you. The last point that I was going to make, just for some fun, I know before we were in the meeting room, before we launched, we were just talking about general trends within fintech and in the industry. And one thing that people see a lot of is crypto coming up in all things fintech and all things payments, and now FX is being lumped in with crypto. I'm not sure if you've seen one of those fraudulent Instagram ads where they call FX experts that are really talking about crypto and into USD. So now that you see corporates that are now starting to manage some money in crypto, or you see crypto being taking on different use cases within the industry, do you see that that would ever enter your world of serving middle market companies, or do you think that we're way far off from that? I know you had some interesting points on it before we got started.
That is really bad timing, and I apologize again for that. So I think I got the gist of the question. I honestly, I think it's come so far so fast that you never can say never. You know that that crypto wouldn't become part of our world. I think it's much more likely to enter from an infrastructure perspective. Sort of a la, one of your competitors, Ripple, as a liquidity source, or as a rail, if you will. So I think from that perspective, for middle market FX and what have you, I think the likelihood is that it would be the infrastructure is what we would end up using from blockchain perspective. But I also think, I don't think the central banks are going anywhere anytime quick. And just looking at the news of all the ransomware stuff going on this last week, I was kind of chuckling at one of the newscasts saying that that wouldn't even exist without Bitcoin, because it's the only way these people are actually getting paid. So I think it's come miles, and I think there's miles more for it to come. We can tie it up with, I'm 54 again, so probably not in my professional career time. I think it's definitely moving forward. I think I bought cryptocurrency myself, and I believe sort of in the infrastructure with. I think there's actually some things that need to, for the payments, industry as well. We could go back and we could talk about ACH debit again, and how, we don't necessarily want to ACH debit somebody that we then send out a blockchain payment that instantly is credited on the other end, because now we have an incredible exposure to, potentially losing money. And I mean, so there's all those kind of things that need to be, you have to replace that ACH rail, in order to sort of tie it up full circle. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. So.
No, it definitely makes sense, and I think you're right. And I was trying to evoke a response. I know we've been playing up the age thing a little bit, but I mean, beyond that, it does make a lot of sense when we look at this as we're a long way from it being used as a legitimate source of exchange. And what you guys do is genuine payments on behalf of industrial corporates and other services. So for you to jump into the crypto game doesn't necessarily make sense at this point. But like you said, it is interesting how we're seeing Ripple and other services are offering a genuine means of foreign exchange in a more secure, stable blockchain. So that is interesting too.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, you can get into the whole, I mean, Swift isn't exactly broken in a lot of respects as well. For the most part, I mean, they'll be, pretty much on those rails, instant payments coming down the pike from them as well. They're not just going to, roll over and go, oh yeah, Ripple, come on in, you take all our business. I mean, it's just that's probably not going to happen. Everybody's infrastructure is going to change and gravitate towards the instant payments and what have you. I mean, we've come miles, and like I said, we got a long way to go.
Yeah, you can use the technology without necessarily having to use the coins. So hopefully we'll see faster payments landing and everything like that, but without having to deal with the volatility of these coins that we still have a long way to understanding. Well, thanks a lot, Jeff. It's been a blast. Is there anything else that you wanted to leave us off at, as for anything that how they can contact you and Payment Earth? Or is anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, you can always visit our website, paymentearth.com. Like I said, we can get a live person on the phone. You can actually, there's a big sign up now button right on the page, and it takes you about 5 minutes to walk through the application. We've got a mobile app, online presence. You can even talk to a person if you want to, and we will give you the exact exchange rates that we show on our website. If you're really giant and you've got a ton of extra payments, we might even be able to do a little bit better. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be happy to help you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff. It's been a lot of fun.
All right.
And yep. All right. Take care. Good luck in
Thanks,
your competition.
Scott. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Take care.